Welcome back to Untethering Shame, the podcast where we peel back the layers of shame to reveal the resilience and strength within us all. I'm your host, Kyira Wackett, and in today's episode, we're delving into the often unspoken struggles of navigating the daily grind while contending with the weight of shame, trauma, and, quote, doing the work. Joining me is Alicia Jacobson, a powerhouse of inspiration and empowerment dedicated to helping women uncover their hidden strength and embrace their inner badass. As a motivational speaker, fitness trainer, and women's mind and body coach, Alicia understands the multifaceted roles and missions that drive her clients. Her deep love for 90s rap music combined with her 6 kids and mom car adds a unique flavor to her vibrant journey of empowerment. In this candid conversation, Alicia and I will shine a light on the relentless impact of shame as it compounds over time, making each day feel like an uphill battle. From juggling the demands of family and work to facing the deep-seated wounds of trauma and pain, we'll explore the challenges of simply trying to make it through a day while also embarking on a journey of healing, self-awareness, and discovery. So grab a seat and tune in as Alicia and I dive face first into this incredibly important topic. Hi, Alicia. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi. I feel like dive face first is exactly how that feels.
Yeah, I know. I was writing that down yesterday and I was like, and I feel like it's not just face first. It's like face first down a never ending flight of stairs where I just keep getting slammed in a slightly different spot.
Yes. Yeah. It's like the trip and like, it's coming and you just have to just take it.
Yeah. And I feel like lately the notion too, like I go to sleep having to it has been really challenging to not get my brain to be thinking about what's the next hurdle, the next fall, the next morning.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so tell me, I have to say my most exciting thing when I was looking at your bio, because obviously we vibe, like there's a lot of overlap to things that we're interested in, kind of how we show up to the world. But I love like nothing more than when Everly gets into a really good rap song with me and we're like vibing in the car. And so I'm just picturing you doing this with your kids. And you have more, obviously, than me. You have 6 of them. They're not always in the car at the same time, but like it just made me so much more excited to connect with you because it's like, I don't know if that's the same for you too, but sometimes in those hard moments, when I can just get a song up in the car and like feel my vibe for a second, it actually is the respite from my face slamming down.
Yeah, music is big in our house, and even my girls would put on. I think the other morning, Grace, she came and she put on the Google in my room, Taylor Swift. You need to calm down. When I was getting ready in the morning
Nice.
this morning on the way to school, and this is wildly inappropriate. Like I feel like in the parenting scheme, but we were listening to the first of the month, Bone Thugs and Harmony, on the way to school this morning, and they make me turn
Love
it. Like we don't live far from school, but they make me turn it off. Like they cannot hear it at school. We can't even see the school. And they're like, turn it off. But then as soon as we're away, they're like, turn it up.
Yeah. Are they like nervous that it's going to draw too much attention?
Yes.
Like they don't want to be? Okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They do not want, every once in a while I'll tease them and I'll turn the music up. Like when I go to pick them up, I'll have the windows down and I'll turn the music up. But yeah, I have one that's wildly embarrassed. That is like, she's mortified. Do not cause attention to me.
I think it'd be so interesting to see how that changes as she's riding in cars with her friends. Cause I think I would have probably done that if it was a parent dropping me off. But now, and also as I've gotten older, sometimes I think I'm becoming the old sort of like complainer nag person where sometimes someone like pulls up to the stoplight and their music is so loud that I can no longer enjoy mine. And I was like, we all have to exist here. Turn your music down. But at the same time, there's nothing like that. So it's interesting. They want it, they can be in it, but they're also humans. Like, I don't want too much attention. I don't want to be seen. I don't want to be judged for this thing. And I don't know how other people will react if they hear it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about, when we were chatting and kind of figuring out what we wanted our topic to be, what made this feel salient to you? Why was this such an important topic that you wanted to shed some more light on and just kind of make space for?
Ooh, well, I think it's because everybody deals with it. I mean, part of unpacking and untethering it is, working through it every day while still going out there and living, and then being mindful of how you're living while also knowing that you're sort of dealing, like trying not to fall face first and then like
Yeah.
stand up with a smile on your face, like
Yeah.
holding both of the things. So I just think it's really, it's something I deal with all the time. I think most of the time do a pretty good job of, handling both, but it's tricky.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious too, because you work with people in these roles to help them sort of navigate that. You're also naming that you're aware you go through this too, because you're a human. Which was first for you? Like, I'm aware that this is a problem and a pain point, and I'm struggling with this, so I want to help other people, or I got into this work, I'm helping people really trying to live their best lives and reach their goals, and I'm seeing sort of that falling on my face feeling, and I'm starting to recognize it in myself, and now, "Oh, shoot, I wanna work on this too."
Mm, Probably a little bit of both. So when I first started, mine was more the way I thought, my mindset and things like that, which I work with people, women on that also. As far as the
Mhm.
shame piece goes, yeah, I had no idea that I had it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So I see it and I work with people and I obviously a little bit in a different capacity than you do. But it was in our session that I had with you and you said
Mhm.
something. I will not forget this. Like this was a moment like if you like the falling on the face, it was
Yeah.
more like getting like maybe falling on the face while also getting hit by like a truck you didn't know. Like you're not in the road and all of a sudden there's a truck in your
Yeah.
living room. That's what that moment was like. You kind of just called it out and I was like, "Oh shit." Like
Yeah.
I really had no idea, which is interesting because I am
Mhm.
so aware of so many different things, but I think the shame
Yeah.
was showing up in a way that I just was not even aware of.
Yeah, I mean, I think that anybody that spends even, like, 46 seconds with you can see you have a really strong value of curiosity and insight building. Like, you're not interested in surface conversations, you're not interested in, like, any sort of performative bullshit that comes up with people. You want to create space for people to go deep, and you expect that of yourself too, and you really invite that in. So it's always interesting when something where you're like, "I've been doing this work, and I feel like I've been mining for my growth points," and then suddenly someone's like, "Yeah, but what about this?" You're like, "What? This thing came out of nowhere." But my guess is once that came to the surface, were you able to go back and realize, "Oh, yeah, like, this is where it came from, this is how it's showing up, and also this is probably why I didn't know it was there, because it was so normal." Like, it was just you were in a survival, I guess, instinct or a sort of a survival brain all the time.
Yeah, looking back, definitely, I can 100% see it now. I think I maybe
Mhm.
labeled it differently and thought it was part of my personality, part of who I was and had adapted to be, and didn't see
Yeah.
it for, oh, have this. I'm dealing with this because this impacted me or this was said
Right.
to me, and now I'm working to prove
Yeah.
my worth. And that was where I sort of, that was my whole last year, was sort of piecing apart this need to prove everything, my existence is valuable, which I didn't realize. Basically I built a whole life around proving. So that was really interesting. I just thought I was a go-getter, which I am,
Mhm.
but it was also this sort of drive of you need to prove you're worthy.
Yeah. Well, and I think I'm sure that's what you see with so many of the women that you work with too, because so many of us, that is how shame manifests is, ultimately it's the fear of not being good enough, of not belonging. We've gotten conditioned in some way that if we can make up for those deficiencies by being something for everyone else, being in service, being that high achiever, getting the grades, having, I mean, you saw this in the fitness side, having a certain weight, body type, whatever that is, when I can check those boxes, I will be deserving of being in the room. I will have love, I will have acceptance, I will have connection, whatever that is. But when you've built your life on that, it starts to become really tricky to imagine one, that you could exist without having to do that. So you're just sort of stuck in this cycle, believing you have to do it all the time. And two, like you said, it's hard to tease apart, well, what's shame and what's actually a value? because you do value hard work. You do value showing up and doing your best. And I don't know if that got clearer for you. Like, as you started to do that work, how are you able to distinguish between, no, I still am a hard worker and I want to do this, but it's not because I need approval versus the you that sort of came to light where you realized, oh my gosh, I'm doing this because I feel like I have to be enough to be in the room.
I think it was really the amount of effort to put into
Mm.
something where it doesn't feel like it's in flow.
Oh, interesting.
And when or something, and this is something I'm still sort of working with right now, but the idea of when I'm thinking about doing something, showing up in a certain way, if I'm considering it from other perspectives other than my own, what will
Hmm.
so and so think of me? Or
Hmm.
things like that. But I think what
Hmm.
I realized is there was more of a resistance. It wasn't like an easy path. And not that everything should be an easy path, but when I was doing it for reasons other than my actual core values, there was other voices I would hear. There was other people's thoughts, opinions, things like that that would show up as I was considering it. Versus if
Yeah.
it's just me, that noise isn't there.
Oh, I think that's such an important distinction because this actually came up with somebody I was talking to the other day that's like, okay, so fine, if I have shame and we were talking about body image and around weight loss, and they're like, so then does that mean I can never want those things because it always means it's going to be layered in shame. And we had a big conversation around, well, no, I think there's always going to be some element of that because that's the story we've been told. We can't undo decades of bias that's in our brains and bodies, but there is a difference in intention and a difference in how we feel with it. So that I have to, I'm supposed to, I should, I need to carries such a different weight on our body than I'm going to, this is right for me, I want to. And I think a lot about, I watched Jordan study for med school all the way through now to being an attending. There are parts he didn't love. Like he didn't love certain tests. He didn't love certain rotations, but he did them because it was connected to his intention, his values, his goals, and he could find that state of flow like you're talking about. He could be in it. He might have preferred to be doing something else, the same as you and I might be like, gosh, I don't want to do billing or I don't want to have to do this marketing plan for this thing. I just want to go and do the speaking or the teaching or whatever it is. But we do it because it really does connect with that. And so for you, you were able to kind of see your brain sort of gets stuck in the meta. Just all the voices, the thoughts, the pressures, which just drains your energy. So doing the thing is something you're sludging through instead of something you want to do.
Hmm. Yeah, and that's I like for me it's related to success in business and kind of doing, building a business and how that's perceived. And
Mm,
me kind of now I'm peeling apart the what does success look like in a life that I can create that doesn't necessarily have to be tied to what society perceives a successful person, which you think you have money, you have a business, you have
mhm.
all of these things. And truly inside now I'm completely redefining what is success for me and I'm trying to figure that out. And I still want to have a successful business. But just
Right.
like your client with, body image and all these things, I still want those things. And I'm trying to figure out how to work with myself in a way that I'm not like stepping over to the other side of, am I doing this because of, reasons that aren't fulfilling to me, which is
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah. And I feel like I'm struggling with this a little bit too, even as a mom. So I'm recognizing as I'm doing some of my own healing work with my mom, getting much more comfortable naming the fact that she has a very narcissistic personality, we'll say, because I can't, legally, ethically diagnose my mother. But there are a lot of elements to that. And I'm noticing these behaviors, these patterns about how I engage as a result of having that as my dominant connector, my dominant attachment figure. And so seeing that and recognizing some of these patterns that come out in a very different way, but I don't like them with Everly. So I'm trying to work on them and process them, but the pressure is there of like, but I need to fix it now. I've got to get it right now. Every interaction has to be perfect. And without this, but the reality, if I can put my therapist hat on for a second, is that right now isn't going to happen because I haven't healed. I haven't processed it yet. And so that pressure point of, as you think about your business, you want a successful business, but the metrics to success, if you like try to do it right now and still have that and maintain it, are going to get pulled back into shame and shrouded with all of that, the numbers, the data, what other people think, instead of going, I'm going to pause fully, allow that distress to exist while I'm not maybe doing anything in my business, or I'm allowing it to exist at an unsuccessful state, if that's the way we're terming it, so that I can figure out what success actually looks like. But I think we're like convinced we can't take the time because of whatever the fear is underneath if we do that.
Hmm. And this, I've there's a couple of things that have come up for me. There's that, and then there's this idea where you said like right now. And when it
Mhm.
comes to parenting and these things, I was working out the other day and I'm on the treadmill and I had this sort of like, I almost had to leave the class to go and like write down my notes because I was like, oh my gosh, like I have had this idea that things need to happen not only right now, but once I fix it, like you said,
Mm.
like with your mom, once you
Yep.
figure that out and you think that you have quote unquote like healed from it, then it's just done. And I've
Yeah.
operated, which
Yeah.
is actually like saying it out loud seems comical.
I
However,
know.
I have been holding on to things that I have thought that, like, I do meditations, I do coaching, I do Reiki, I do all
Yep.
these things. And I think, like, oh, once I let it go, once I get it out of me, I've used the term probably even
Mhm.
with you, like, I just need to get it out of me. Like, somehow I'm going to be done. And I'm running, and all of a sudden, like, wait a second, it's always going to be with you. And I know this with
Yeah.
other things, but for some reason, like some of this deep stuff, I thought, well, once I just get rid of it and figure it out, unlock the door, it will be done. And then I can check that off my list.
Yep.
And it's not. It's now I've realized, like, oh, this is going to be as it arises. I will have to metabolize it and work with it and figure it out and then move on. And then it will happen again. There's not going to
Yeah.
be this like, kind of like I used to smoke years ago, way, way long time ago. Like I just quit and it was done.
Yeah.
That was it. Like that's how I feel like somehow this stuff should be some of it where it's like, okay, you figure it out. Oh, smoking is not good for me. I'm done. You
Right.
figure this out. It's not good for me. I'm done. Like, mm-mm. No.
No. Well, especially I think when it's interpersonal and connection driven, and I think it is this used to come up for me a lot. So in the DSM, the diagnostic and statistic whatever manual, the thing that we use to diagnose people with mental health disorders, there's this idea in there with eating disorders where you could then diagnose somebody as being partially recovered or fully recovered. And I got into a really big debate with a professor at the time when we were talking about diagnoses of, is that actually a thing that we can give people, is the idea that someone can be fully recovered from something? Because what we're talking about is them living with an altered brain state or a different way of thinking or a different connection. Maybe it's healed, but still like a wounded connection to their body. Can that ever actually be quote unquote fully recovered? So I always rejected that. I still identify as only partially recovered from my eating disorder a decade plus in because I was using this different birth control and I was trying a different pre-workout and like I was having a significant amount of water retention as my body was going through all these things. Nothing else had changed in my daily living and my planning, but suddenly I was like, I feel fluffy all the time. Like I feel this sense of fluffiness. You bet your ass that every single thought right back to my eating disorder from 21 years old came right back flooding in being like, but I've got this. This will help. This will make it better. Here, just try it. And it's like, wait, whoa, the resilience piece is now I can go, yeah, I don't want that. That sucks because I know where that leads. I don't like this, but I can exist in a temporary state or a short term state of distress while allowing my body to refigure itself out because I've learned to trust my body. And so I think with this stuff, it's really truly shifting into shame recovery, quote unquote, is this idea of something that we can just get over to that shame resilience piece of realizing, oh no, you're going to have invitations to come back there the rest of your life. you are going to have an invitation every day to, especially in the fitness and the mindfulness world and everything that you do, focus on the numbers, compete in this way, do these things, speak at these events, get this number of people, charge this amount, do these things. That pressure's always going to be there. The difference is you're going to get better and quicker at turning the volume down. But that part is a really hard thing because then you have to sort of radically accept, I don't like this and I have to deal with this for the rest of my life.
Yeah, that was annoying. Like, I was like it was just interesting because I truly, truly thought, like, it would be, like you said, like, recovered. Like, I thought
Yeah.
that's what I was working towards, and then all of a
Yeah.
sudden I was like, "Oh, that's not gonna be
Yeah.
the end goal here. It's not gonna be some magical meditation that I do, and it's
Yeah.
going to release and let go. Because that's what they say, like, "Let go, release."
Yeah.
What they fail to say is you need to do that on repeat, like, daily.
Yeah.
Like, this is going to that resiliency piece that you said.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's you've seen it with clients that would come in maybe to the gym, or if you were working with them on nutrition or a sort of a daily habit schedule, and like, but I've been here every day. I've been doing this for a month. Why is this still a thing? Like, why don't I feel better? Why haven't I lost the weight? Whatever their goal is. But the idea is like if you're coming in with a short-term goal of I have to be this weight to be able to be okay, to make everything fine, that's shame driven. And you will get a temporary fix. You'll get there. You'll find some desperate way to get there, but then you will either spend the rest of your life being scared you're going to lose it or actively fighting to keep it going. If working out, if fitness, if, mindful eating, whatever it is that your goal is a part of your life, you do it every day, knowing that some days are going to be harder than others. The same as I'm sure there are some days you meditate and it's very easy to let things go. And then there are some days you meditate and you're like, and I feel like I am still knee deep in sadness and overwhelm. What's the point? Why did I do that? I think it's that giving up or that letting go of the idea that we can control that and instead saying, but I'm still going to show up anyways, even when it feels like it's not getting better, even on the day that I feel like I'm back to square one. I think that's the actual letting go. We're just not totally there yet, at least in years in my process of it.
Yeah, I don't think I mean, because when I kind of had that, I don't know that anybody is there. I mean, unless you're meditating on some rock, like the images you see that
Right.
when you're searching for like a calm person image, like
Yeah.
unless that's your
Yeah.
like 100% state all the time. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a rinse and repeat activity.
Yeah. Well, and what do you think when you imagine? Because I think one of the cool things that you do is you take your real life experiences, you go through them. And I think you used the word digestion before. You're not only digesting it for yourself, but you also do a really good job of pulling out what did I learn and how can I make that information accessible to other people so that they can do that work. And so, what do you think are some of the key things, even though you're still feeling like you're in the middle of the process? What have you learned that's been helpful so far to make it at least feel more accessible that you're able to translate to other people of like, start here, try this helps?
Well, I think first would be removing the kind of, I don't want to say the word stigma because that's not what I mean, but sort of like acceptance and being okay with here's where I'm at and
Mm,
not like just being okay with that and have your starting point. Um, and then just starting and trying. Just today, I was after I had my like revelation a couple weeks ago. I had a client today in my circle, and she was talking about confidence and how she was, scared to just show up and sort of be seen, and how she essentially was saying the same thing. Like I feel like I just need to fix it. I just need to like get over it. And we
mhm.
just had this conversation of it's something that is always going to be a part of you. It's something you grew up, you learned this for how many years that when things
Right.
happen, it's going to be a default. And then how can you, work with that? So just kind of having this idea of, starting and not being afraid of it. It's a process. It's a continual process. And then how can you be joyful and not
Mm,
have it sort of, like you said, like thinking about it in the morning and thinking about it like, what else are you thinking about at the same time? Like, yes, I have to deal with these things. And also, I have all these wonderful, lovely things, going on in life. And what do you want to see more of? And how can you kind of infuse that with the deep work that you're doing?
yeah. I think that's such a key point. It makes me think a lot about gratitude and sort of the practice of gratitude. Even like, so I've really just turned 4. I love being I don't know, she's technically not a toddler anymore, a little kid mom, I suppose, but I've learned I didn't thrive in the baby mom zone. I don't really like that era. And so as I've been going through this, I get so excited about who she's becoming, getting to know her, sort of celebrating those pieces. And then there are moments that just really fucking suck. Like they're so hard. They're so bad. I can't even. And then it's easy to get stuck in that moment and like tunnel into that moment. And you just get lost in that. And I think some of that is because we've conditioned ourselves almost like we can't have any pain, like we're expecting ourselves to be perfect and to be okay all the time, that when we do get overwhelmed, it's almost like it has to be so bad, like it becomes the only thing we can talk about. We need everybody to validate how terrible it is so that it is deserving of some airtime. And the sort of balance point of, I think what you said of how can I be grateful for the opportunity to experience such a shift and uniqueness and like watching somebody grow and learning the challenges of being in a relationship where you keep showing up and you keep putting the work in. And how grateful can I be that, yes, there are days that I really, really want to just take a walk around the block or like pee without her asking if she can be in there with me. Like I'd really like to just like take one shower by myself and not have her ask if she can sit on the floor and read books. It's probably not going to happen anytime soon, but I can be grateful for the fact that I get this opportunity and that I'm excited to keep learning. But you lose that. And so I think that's a huge piece of, maybe you didn't reach your goal today. Maybe it didn't work out the way you wanted. Maybe your best intention for how you were going to show up and talk to your partner still ended up in a blow up fight. And you came in with an awareness, you're coming out with awareness. There's still more opportunity. Like, how do we keep that vision more expanded instead of tunneled down where we get shrouded in the shame?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I have to write things down. Like I have to keep
Yeah.
well, and I'm a pretty negative person anyway, just by nature. I think people are in general, but I feel like if most people are negative, I'm like 10 times the negative.
Mhm.
And I complain a lot. So I actually very intentionally wake up now because I got to a really bad place. And before I get out of bed, I think about like, how do I want to be today? How do I want to think today? So to
Yeah.
not get in that tunnel vision, like I work my ass off to think about the
Mhm.
things that are good and lovely and wonderful and like very intentionally do that because otherwise, I mean, I'm really good at being negative.
Is your negative about you or about other people or both?
Oh, no, it's other people. They drive me nuts. They do
Yeah.
stupid things.
Yeah.
They like, "What where are you thinking?" Like, it's not me
Yeah.
at all. I am great.
Yeah.
Like, I am wonderful. It is the
The
people
problem is
out
the
there.
rest of the world. Yeah.
Yes.
Which
Mhm.
is actually really interesting because I was reading about control and how people pleasing is actually oftentimes a form of avoidance of taking ownership of the stuff that we are responsible for. And that control in this way, when everyone else is the problem, that there's ways that we're actually doing it because it creates comfort, because then we can fix it and we're the ones with the answer. So it's such an interesting thing. I don't know if that's what it is for you, but I've been really thinking about when I'm interacting with someone and I'm so quick to be critical of what they could be doing better or how they are failing. And my brain does go there like, am I trying to be protective? Because then I can fix it. I can help. Look at now, I've created a hole where I can fill it. I have purpose and value because I've got the answer. And if they just listen to me, things will be okay. Therefore, my shame is still getting a leg in the door.
Yeah. Yes. Mine is a little bit more, people just existing,
Okay.
like breathing,
Yeah.
or eating, um,
Mm,
just being in space where I feel like, "What are you doing? Why are you doing
yeah.
this?" I have to work on my driving because I didn't realize, but I drive carpool with my daughter, and she will often be like, "Mom, stop," because all her friends are in the car and I'm yelling at the
Yeah.
person in front of me. Um, so mine is more like that versus like, I don't care. I don't have a solution for you to do something.
You
Like,
don't need to fix
no, I
them.
don't
You
I
just
don't have
know
that
that
much
what they're
energy
doing
to
is
give
yeah.
any shits
Got
about
it.
what you're doing. It's just more of
Yeah.
like people existing in space. And I just feel like, could you do it quieter? Like,
Oh, that's a really interesting thing too, because I do wonder if some of that is just like you you have a system, you've been performing, you know what to do, you have sort of an expectation. Jordan told me the other day that my sort of threshold point to when I'm annoyed at people is much smaller than the rest of the world's. Like I have a very low threshold to being inconvenienced. And so I lose my ability to be patient much more quickly than some people do because I have this thing that's supposed to go this way, and when it doesn't, I jump there. So it sounds like that might be some of
a
that piece
hundred
too of like,
percent.
okay, so it is that piece. And I do think, at least for me, there is a lot of that that comes down to me sort of having a way of functioning. It's almost like an over control because I do not want to be inconvenienced by anybody in the world. And when you're like, even when you said breathing, I'm like, oh my gosh, Jordan just told me the other day, he goes, because our house is set up where it's a single story. We have a basement, but our kitchen, dining room, all that is on one end, and then the bedrooms are on the other end. And we will both, if he's not on shift, he's up in the morning. I just think he's really fucking loud. I think
Yes.
he doesn't understand how to be quiet. And I need an hour before Everly wakes up so that I can be the mom that I want to be. And he'll be like, grinding the coffee and, like, packing her lunch. He's trying to do all these things to help the day get off with a great start, and I am just glaring at him. Like, how I'll, like, do the sigh. I'm just God. We were talking the other day, and I was like, "You are so loud." He's like, "I'm whispering. I'm whispering quieter than you." "No, you're not. You are taking up too much space." I was like, Why don't you go in the basement?" Like, it was and then I had to pause and think about it, like, one and I think it has so much to do for me of because I've made my structure of my system is still so fragile, I haven't built up my mental emotional capacity to be inconvenienced in a day for me to be okay. Because that's the goal. If we get back to sort of the, like, the monk on the rock, it's not that they have a structure and everything goes a certain way, it's that they realize that the structure can't exist for them to be happy. They have to be okay with the fact that the world is going to not follow their plan, and they learn how to make peace with that. But I am not there yet, and so I have the structure and the rigidity. Sounds like we're naming our next phase of our process right here.
Well, I also just think that some people are loud. And
That's true. That
I
is true.
mean, I think there might be like, I think people's mouths must be built differently in the way that they
Mhm.
project sound.
Their
And I
voices?
just think
Yeah.
that that is aggressive to my ears and my face. And I just wish that they wouldn't. Like, I could give like a how-to tutorial at a Mexican restaurant on how to properly eat a tortilla chip so that the entire restaurant does not have to hear your mouth.
Yeah.
These are things that I like. This is, and then I go to my self-managing because it's
Yep.
inappropriate for me to be so pissed off at you because I can't even
Yeah.
think when
Because
these
'Cause you're
things
just eating a
happen.
chip. Right.
Mhm. Mhm. So yeah, I
Yeah.
am not the monk, but maybe in other spaces, not there.
Not that yet. Well, it's the same I have again, the lovely joys of developmental learning and growing of a four-year-old. Her brain now takes something that's like a 1 and takes it to a 10. So we've been having that conversation where I'm like, "I need you to be at a 1 because you went to a 10 and this is barely a 1." Like, this is like, she got so upset about, like, somebody had a pack of stickers and she asked if she could have one. They said yes, and some had been taken off, and she figured out that one was a grapefruit, and she came to me, I mean, scream crying that she had really wanted a grapefruit sticker, and now she wasn't gonna have one. Meanwhile, she didn't even know the stickers existed 14 seconds ago, but now her life was over, and so I think our brains are taking it to a 10,
Yes.
when it's really a 1, and that but I wonder, have you been that way your whole life?
No, it gets worse as I get older, so I'm guessing there's some sort of, like, I sensory and it's already have too much. My stress cup is full, and I have too many processing things happening to where I don't have the capacity, and as the day goes on, like, if it's in the evening, the sensory stuff, like, it's gone.
Well, and I have sort of a working theory, I don't know if I'll articulate it fully yet, but the idea being that so we took Everly to a place called the Great Wolf Lodge. They have them
Yeah,
back in
we've got them
Wisconsin at
here.
the Dells. Yeah, it's the same company, so same sort of setup. We took her there for her birthday. I am so unwilling to be inconvenienced with my space and my sleep. Like, I don't wanna hear a single person, even though I am willingly stepping foot into a place where thousands of people are also going to sleep. But I get so angry so quickly. If I wanna go somewhere, I wanna be able to go there when I wanna do it. So I have these things. I'm projecting that onto Everly sometimes. So I'll be like, "Okay, we gotta worry about this and think about this," whatever the case is, and Jordan's like, she's a kid. Like, she'll be fine. She'll sleep anywhere." I'm like, "But what if she doesn't? We need to make sure, do we have her sleep machine? Do we have her set up here? We have to be in this floor and these things." And while we're there, she just slept when she slept. She ate when she ate. She was fine. So part of my working theory, because obviously this is generational, because obviously when we were little kids, we could do that more easily. Some kids more adaptable than others, sure, but we were more willing to be inconvenienced and we were more able to exist in whatever was going on. There's something that shifts in us as we get older. And I do wonder if there is a connection to shame in that because there's order, there's an expectation of how we are supposed to function. And then in that, we create sort of our normal and our comfort, and things need to be and look and go this way. And that becomes what's comfortable for us. Now, I don't wanna be inconvenienced. I also struggle if the inconvenience in any way jeopardizes my doing. So if I have to get something done, that's even more difficult for me. So if somebody was chewing a tortilla chip and I'm eating tortilla chips, I don't care. But if you bring that bowl of tortilla chips next to me when I am trying to write an email, then I wanna metaphorically throat punch you as quick as I possibly can because you've now stopped me from doing the thing that I have to do, and if I'm being honest, connects back to my shame because it's fear driven. If I can't get this done, then what? So it's an interesting full circle. Again, my theory is still being worked
Yeah.
out, but I think there's something that we lose as we get older that might have more to do with our fear than it does with actually beneficial structure
Mhm.
and
Yeah,
dynamics.
and controlling your environment. I mean, that's essentially
Yeah,
like mhm. Yeah,
right. Like
interesting.
why do I have to be so in control of what anybody else is doing? Why is me knowing how, to use your chip example, why is eating a chip loudly actually bad? Why does it have to be quiet? Because for us, that's what we've determined. That's the design of the system that we have, and this is how it's supposed to be. And I do think it is that sort of environmental control and expectation.
Mhm.
Okay. So thinking about that, where are you going with that? Besides practicing your gratitude each day, what's your next step? Because I'm not sure if I know mine yet.
No, nowhere with that, just not throat punching
Okay.
anybody metaphorically
Yeah. Yeah.
or
Yeah. Yeah.
actually.
Or physically. Yeah. Walking away before that
Yeah,
happens.
which is self-managing. I think that's, like, what you talked about
Yeah.
in the beginning of, falling down the steps or, face planting
Yeah.
is how can you have that and then get back up and
Yeah.
be in life and do the processing and do the deep work and also be showing up every single day for your people, and your family and,
Hmm.
parenting and all of those places. And it's just we're constantly processing and self-managing and
Mm.
showing up at the same time.
Yeah. It sounds like ultimately the goal, if we pull the whole thing together, is really cultivating a sense of emotional and body intelligence and recognizing because those things are triggers. They're invitations to be pulled out of that present state. And whether that is someone's chewing or someone's loud noise or someone's driving or that shame story, that rumination, that struggle, that fear, whatever it is, they pull us out of whatever's happening in the moment and they distract away from being able to exist in the life that we want to. When you think about success in your business, like you said, those sort of micro pulls of like, but I should be doing this. I need to make this money. I need to do these things. It's ultimately no different because they're all distractions in some way. And so it sounds more like for both of us kind of learning what are triggers, those circumstances, and those emotions. Like I am way more I have a much harder time coming out of anger than I do out of sadness. I can process that. I know how to well, unhelpfully, I know how to stuff it, but helpfully, I know how to feel it better. Anger is a hard one for me because I go to righteous anger really quickly, and I'm really good at making the story that, again, everyone else is the problem, or vice versa, making myself the problem. And so, yeah, it is, I think, learning the self management, which is the naming it, the being in it long enough to let yourself feel it. And then maybe that's where our letting go comes in of going, one, I'm not going to put myself in a room and exist there for the rest of my life. I'm making a conscious decision to live and to move around in a world with other people. And that means some people are going to inconvenience me. That means sometimes I'm going to inconvenience other people. The pressures, the stories, that's all going to be there. I am going to make a conscious decision to not get caught up in those pressures or lose myself in my emotional reactions to those experiences. And maybe that's the point where then we feel like the cycle shifts more in that peaceful space or state than that stress and pressure state.
And then, remembering, because I think that's, you have the trigger, and then you're in that state of processing and being there long enough to actually be with it. And
Yeah.
what are the things you're supposed to be doing in that time? Because
Yeah.
it's not like necessarily you're just, plopped on your couch and like, "Oh, I have my" you may
Yeah.
have more tools than, most people as it, but
Right.
still I'm sure it's like it's tricky. And it's
Yeah.
like you have that, and how do you then remember like, "Oh, here's how I can be with this. Here's how
Yeah.
I can, handle this inconvenience or the righteous anger or things, like that." And then
Mhm.
metabolize it and deal with it and be with it, and then release and wait patiently for the next time.
Yeah. And I do think a lot of that is I used to put a pressure on myself because I have this training that I should have the answer. And what I've realized is my brain is no different from Everly's brain when she didn't get that sticker. When I'm at a 10, the tools are not accessible. And so realizing the only thing I can do is be with myself in that moment. When we talk about that pressure, so much of that, I'm doing this painful, hard work and I've got to keep going and doing and doing. I do this. I mean, I'm sick right now. Obviously, anybody listening can tell that my sultriness is mostly just snot guarded in the back of my throat and coughing up a lung for the last 4 days. And so it's like when I'm sick, I'll tell myself, but you should still be up at 6 a.m. and getting the things done. You've got to have X, Y, and Z done. It's that pressure. I'm doing the work now. It's just physical healing instead of mental, emotional healing. But I don't give myself the buffer, the space. And so I do think a lot of that comes back to being able to say, sometimes all I can do is just be with myself in a moment, a hard feeling, whether that is a physical ailment like I'm feeling right now, or like you said, one of those difficult emotional experiences. And sometimes it is just saying, I don't have to have the answer. I have to just be willing to be in it without telling myself that I need to fix it because I'm not less than right now. I'm just existing maybe in a place that I've conditioned myself to think is a suboptimal way of being. That doesn't mean it actually is.
Yeah. I think that's really what you just said. I don't have to have the answer, because I know I need to have the answer.
Yeah.
Like,
Or you feel like you do to
yes,
be
it
okay.
makes me
Yeah.
feel better if I can say, "Okay, this happened, and here is how
Yeah.
you fix it." This is my
Yeah.
and that is my go-to of having the answers. I think you know that. Um,
Yep.
I like to have the answers, but I having it happen and then having just the experience of it. I don't have to have the answers. I can just be here now, and that is
Hmm.
okay.
Yeah. I also simultaneously, if we're talking body awareness, can feel my body wanting to reject that because it wants me to still have the answer and to fix it. Because again, going back to the checkbox. And so it is I think this whole episode is basically bringing to light, even when we figure out what that next part of the process is, you can see the spiral take you back through the other parts of the cycle too. And so being able to say, yes, I actually do think that is something I need to do. I'm always going to be a little inconvenienced by, we'll use the driver example. People drive very different out in Portland. And I really wish that somebody would just teach everybody the universal zipper trick and we could like merge and it would be okay. That's never going to happen. I feel like I have the answer, but I don't have to have the answer. I don't need to give the answer. I need for my own sake to learn to be okay that it's just going to take me an extra 14 minutes on the highway because nobody knows how to do it, and then buffer that and not design a life that is so specific that any inconvenience takes me off that path. Ooh, okay. Well, I didn't know that this was gonna help me in my next layer of therapy, so this is just what happens. I think you naturally bring that out too. That's that curiosity, that cultivating the space for everybody to get curious, so thank you. I was not prepped for that. I'm gonna hold that the rest of the day.
Right? Thank you. This was wonderful.
Yeah.
I love talking with you. Like, I just love
Yeah, same.
all the things about you. So I'm really happy to be here.
Tell me, because there's gonna be some people that are like, "Okay, but I don't have enough Alicia in my life yet. I want to know how to connect with her more. I wanna maybe work with her in some capacity." I only kind of teased them on just a little bit of what you do because you do so many amazing things for the people you work with. And so, where is the best place if they were gonna take away one next step of, "Yes, I wanna connect with her. Here's where to go." Where's the best place for them to do that?
Oh, I'm gonna actually give you 2. So you can connect with me
Okay.
on Instagram. Oh, I'm gonna go 3. You can Instagram, I know, Alicia Jacobson, or just my website, which again is aliciajacobson.com, or my podcast, which is Spirit of a Badass.
Mhm.
So all of those places, you can come and hang out with me. I love that. I didn't get enough of
Mhm.
you. Like,
Yeah,
that
because
sounds
I
all
know
fun.
everybody listening is gonna be like, "Oh my gosh, I need this
Yeah,
person."
I love
Because
that.
again, like I said, you bring this, it's an energy that you cultivate in a space, and that's not like a skill that's taught. It's a conditioned awareness that you've really worked at, and I think anybody being able to be around you, even if it is through watching you on social media, will feel it, and they've are coming away feeling it now, and so I'm super excited for people. You definitely need to go check her out on social media. Go listen to her podcast. Just go listen. Again, I think one of the gifts of what you do, so much of how you try to help is from an ego decentered place. Like it really is about connecting to our full selves and with each other. And so for everybody that's just looking for that deeper work, but also the safety of saying, I want to do it. I also might not be ready. Like, this is a great place to start. So do that. Alicia, thank you. This was incredible. I will make sure that all the links that she mentioned to get to her website and everything are down in the show notes. You can also use our poll or our Q&A at the end of the episode to let us know what you took away from this so I can share with Alicia some of the impact that she's had and that our conversation is having on you, and or let us know when and if she comes back what more we need to talk about. Otherwise, I will see you all next Sunday. Thank you and have a great rest of your day.